Hi, this is Les and Amy from the RevGenetics podcast. You can listen to the podcast on YouTube and now on Spotify, where we do a deep dive on supplements and longevity studies. Today, we're opening up a really fascinating file on something called phytogenics.
Hmm.
Now, that sounds a bit technical, but really it just means these incredibly powerful natural compounds you find in plants.
Right.
And our mission for this deep dive is to see how these compounds tackle, one of the biggest challenges to our health, which is cellular stress.
And how that all connects to how long we live.
Exactly. We're looking at a study that treats these plant extracts like, keys that can unlock our own internal longevity machinery.
That really is the core idea. The source material we're looking at today actually comes from research into animal resilience.
Animals, like what kind of animals?
Things like poultry, swine, even aquatic animals. But you're right, the principles here are completely universal. You see, in farming, high-stress environments can cause real problems. Sudden mortality. And that stress can be anything, nutritional, environmental, you name it.
So the goal was to find a natural way to boost their, what the study calls, adaptogenic potential.
Adaptogenic potential. Yeah, let's break that down.
Please, because for anyone listening, that sounds like it translates directly to our own resilience,
That's
right?
exactly that. It's just the ability of any living system, a chicken, a pig, a person, to adapt to stressors.
Stand up to them.
To stand up to them without falling apart. If you're more resilient at the cellular level, you're going to have a longer, healthier life. It's that simple.
And the research we're diving into, it focused on a specific blend called Phyto-C. Why that one?
Well, it's a combination of some really well-known global adaptogens. We're talking about extracts from plants like amla, tulsi, ashwagandha, and licorice.
So plants with a long history of use.
A very long history. But what's new here, what's really revolutionary, is the method they use to prove how they work.
Okay, so this is where the computational biology part comes in. We're going beyond just seeing that the animals seem healthier.
Way beyond. They used what are called in silico tools. Think of it like building a perfect, super high-resolution map of a cell on a computer.
A digital cell.
A digital cell, exactly. And then they could model how these plant compounds interact, molecule by molecule, with the deepest genetic switches inside that cell, the ones that control stress and lifespan.
So it's about proving the mechanism.
Proving it with hard data right down to the molecular level.
That sets the stage perfectly. Let's get into the paper itself. The title is Unveiling Novel Longevity-Regulating Mechanisms of Phytogenic Adaptogen Phyto-CTM Through a Computational Biology Approach.
It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's our blueprint.
Yeah.
And for you listening, we really want to demystify what's happening inside those cells. We keep mentioning these longevity master switches.
Right. Things like FOXO, AMPK, SIRT1, MTR. It can sound like a foreign language.
It can, but we can make it really simple.
Let's do it. What are these switches actually doing? I think we need some simple analogies here.
Okay, so imagine your cell has a fundamental choice to make at all times.
A choice.
Grow fast or survive tough times. That's it. And these master switches are the ones making that decision.
So if things are good, lots of food, the cell says, let's grow.
Exactly. But when stress is high or food is scarce, it flips the switch into survival mode.
And one of the most important of those survival switches is the energy sensor, AMPK. How does that one work?
Okay, think of AMPK as your cell's low-fuel light.
Like in a car.
Just like in a car.
Yeah.
It's always sensing how much energy the cell has. And when your energy levels drop, maybe you're fasting or exercising or just under stress, that light comes on. AMPK activates.
And what happens then?
It's like a little manager inside the cell shouting, okay, everyone, budget cuts, stop all non-essential activity. We need to conserve energy and focus on maintenance.
So it puts the cell into what you called endurance mode.
Endurance mode, which is key for longevity.
I love that. So once you're in endurance mode, you've got to start cleaning up, right? That brings us to SIRT1 and autophagy.
Correct. If AMPK is the energy manager, RT1 is part of the cellular repair crew.
The repair crew, okay.
Its main job is fixing damage, especially to your DNA, and just keeping everything running smoothly. And it works directly with autophagy.
Which is the cell's recycling program.
Perfect analogy. It cleans out all the old, broken, junky parts that are clogging things up. You have to have that regular maintenance for a long, healthy cellular life.
Okay, so we have the fuel manager and the repair crew. What about the switch that just screams, grow, grow, grow? That's MTOR, right?
That's MTOR. It's the cell's growth pedal. When there's plenty of food, MTOR is pushed to the floor, and the cell is building things like crazy.
But for longevity, that's not always what you want.
No. For longevity, you want to ease off that pedal. When mTOR is inhibited or turned down, the cell slows growth and focuses all its resources on survival and repair. That's the state you want to be in.
And the last one is FOXO. This sounds like the first responder.
That's a great way to put it. FOXO is the stress defense manager.
Okay.
When a threat hits, FOXO jumps into action. It activates all the cell's internal defense systems, things that scavenge free radicals and clean up toxic waste caused by stress. It's your frontline protector.
The energy manager, the repair crew, the growth pedal, and the stress defense manager. And this whole study was about showing that these plant extracts could actually control them.
And that was the big finding. The chemicals in Phyto C were strongly modulating. They were actively changing these exact master switches.
So it's not just folklore.
It's 21st century data confirming ancient wisdom, a powerful protective effect right at the molecular level.
RevGenetics is backing today's dive into the topic.
And this research really just underscores how important it is to support your cellular fitness, to boost that stress resilience with natural compounds that work on these deep fundamental pathways.
So let's get into the specifics now. The computer models showed these extracts work, but what were the actual key chemicals doing the work? And, how do we know this data is reliable?
That's the critical question.
Yeah.
A computer model is only as good as its data. So the researchers used a tool called LC-MS validation.
What is that?
Think of it like a chemical fingerprinting machine. It's incredibly precise. It confirms exactly which compounds are in the extract, so you know the computer is simulating the real thing.
Got it. So the players are confirmed. Who was the MVP? Which compound had the biggest impact on those longevity switches?
The absolute standout was a compound called ellagic acid,
Ellagic acid. Okay.
a type of compound called a hydrolysable tannin.
Whoa. Okay. Jargon alert. Let's pause there. What is a hydrolysable tannin?
Fair point. Tannins are everywhere in plants. They give you that slightly bitter, dry feeling from red wine or strong tea. They're powerful antioxidants.
Okay.
And hydrolysable just means your body can break it down very easily to release those good parts. So ellagic acid is just a really potent, easy-to-access plant antioxidant.
Got it. So what did the computer model show about this ellagic acid?
The results were, frankly, stunning. It showed the highest degree of modulation. It significantly impacted 74 out of the 87 longevity genes they studied.
74 out of 87.
Yeah. I mean, that is almost total control over the cell's survival network. It was a master regulator of AMPK, mTOR, and another pathway called PI3K.
That's not just a small effect. That's like it's conducting the whole orchestra.
It really is. It's
Yeah.
not just turning one dial. It's coordinating the entire stress defense system at once. It tells the cell, okay, boost energy efficiency, slow down growth, and get into deep protection mode now.
Incredible. What were some of the other key players?
Next was gallic acid, which is another hydrolysable tannin, so it's in the same family. It modulated 60 different genes. It works in concert with ellagic acid.
Okay, and then we get to some of the more famous adaptogens, like ashwagandha.
Exactly. The analysis found strong activity from withiferin A, which comes from ashwagandha. The data showed it specifically hits that AMPK pathway we talked about.
The low fuel light?
It flicks on that low fuel light. And this backs up other research showing it helps lower stress hormones like cortisol. We're seeing why it works at the molecular level.
And what was the last one?
The last major one was ursolic acid. It's a different type of compound, a triterpenoid. It also activates AMPK, boosting that survival signal, and it seems to help with muscle maintenance too.
So you have all these different compounds all working on related survival pathways. But you said before, the real magic here is the synergy.
That's the most important finding, yes.
Mhm.
This is the proof for using the whole plant. The study found that gallic acid and ellagic acid together had a huge synergistic effect.
Meaning they were stronger together.
Much stronger. They jointly modulated 34 specific genes that neither one of them really touched on their own.
So 1 + 1 = like 5 here.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
The combination is just far more powerful for boosting the cell's endurance than any single part would be. It helps the body adapt, which is the whole point.
It's amazing. This research starts with stress in farm animals, but the mechanisms AMPK, SRT1, FXO, these are the exact same pathways we try to activate for our own health.
It's a direct bridge.
Through things like fasting or intense exercise.
Exactly. In animals, the stress is acute and the results are catastrophic. For us, it's often this chronic low-level stress from diet, from toxins, from life. It just slowly wears our cells down.
So these compounds give our cells the tools to fight back against that slow decline.
They give them the tools to engage the stress defense manager, to engage the energy manager, and to shift into that protective maintenance mode. It's using nature's chemistry to manage the aging process itself.
So the final takeaway is that these plant extracts help our cells overcome stress by activating their own deep natural survival programming.
That's it. It enhances their energy sensing, their stress response, their antioxidant capacity, all of which is directly tied to a longer cellular lifespan. It provides a real scientific framework for why these plants have been so valued for thousands of years.
What's really provocative to me is that we're now using supercomputers and, molecular mapping to prove the wisdom of traditional medicine. It makes you wonder what else is out there, just waiting to be validated by our modern tools.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast on research showing that natural plant extracts activate the same universal health switches that boost longevity in both animals and humans.
Thank you for listening to the RevGenetics podcast.
RevGenetics.com for the best longevity supplements on Earth.